I believe this is Atlas's 5th session with the hose. Again, I'm going to start by just spraying and then pairing with some food. And Castor is also going to join us in this video because they were both like turned out in the yard next to each other, and he also is doing the same lesson with the hose, so he's a little bit braver than Atlas is, so he really wants to be in on the game and come participate. But now you can see that Atlas is a little bit more relaxed with some spraying a little bit closer to him, just getting every so close to his front feet because that's where I want to start. But unfortunately, he's kind of at a bad angle to like actually see like his head and neck. But I think he's gonna move here in a second. But now I'm just getting really close next to his hoof and kind of just maybe spraying a little bit on his hoof right there. That looks really nice. I probably could even spray just even a little bit less and stayed on there a little bit less of an amount of time, because I got to be careful with that. It's just a little bit on his foot and then clicking and then feeding. So I don't want to do too much at once and scare him. So just a little bit on that hoof and then click and feed. And a little bit higher up on his pasture and click and feed. And then that's kind of the process that I'm going to be using. So now I'm kind of on his front feet and that looks pretty good. He doesn't seem like he's tensing up too much, but again, from this angle, not super great to see. You can probably see a little bit in the shadow. So his head and neck doesn't seem to move at all when I actually start spraying on his legs, so that's great. But again, I should have used my cone for the start button because he did seem to do really well with that. So this looks great. Like in the first few times there, I started spraying away and then got closer. That was kind of the first spray where I just kind of sprayed right on his foot, and he seemed pretty good with that. So the same thing, kind of a little bit closer and a little bit higher up. Perfect. So as long as he's staying calm and relaxed, I can go up a little bit higher on his legs. If he seems tight and tense, I'm going to go back a step or two. So a little bit higher, nice. I'm clicking while that hose is spraying up a little bit higher, then taking it off and feeding. It's just important that you click while the water is on the horse. That's the behavior that you want to reinforce. It's not after you've taken the water off. So I'm going to do the same thing kind of on the hind feet, spray a little bit next to it, and then have just a little bit of water hit that hind leg, just right above the hoof. And I like to start on the feet. They're usually the easiest place to go. The spray is pretty low. It's not really high up on the horse, a little bit scarier. And then the front feet are just a little bit easier than the hind feet. Usually they're a little bit less sensitive. Specifically with Atlas they are. He's a lot more relaxed with having those front feet handled and stuff than the hind feet. That looks fantastic. He's just kind of, the first kick was probably a fly or a bug, like that right hind, but he might have been just kind of pulling that left hind up because it might be a little bit cold and wet. I'm not sure, but it could also be a bug. So again, I'm paying attention and seeing if he's really bothered by that or if he just has bugs on him. It might be a little chilly and might feel a little weird, specifically since this is his first time actually having his legs sprayed. Yeah, it might be some of the water because he's like, that feels a little weird. So making sure that it's nice and reinforcing, using something that's pretty high value so that it's worth it to him, since he does feel like it's a little uncomfortable, specifically on his hind legs. I don't want to use too high of a value, so he's just focusing on the food and nothing else, but enough where it's like worth his time. So different behaviors are worth different amounts. If they're really comfortable with a behavior, it can use a lower level food. This one I would probably use like a more medium value. Same thing with like trailer loading. See there, he's kind of like pulling that foot up. It's like, oh, that was a little weird. So just kind of start from the side. See how he pulled that foot up really high, and I was like, okay, that's a little uncomfortable for him, so I just started back a step, and I just sprayed next to him and just a little bit on his foot, and then clicked and treated. So just going back a step, no big deal. Again, I do like that he's interested in the hose, he's wanting to interact with it, so he's still wanting to participate even though it's a little uncomfortable for him. And it gets really hot here, so this is one of those behaviors that he definitely needs to learn how to do. And that's why I started practicing it so early on too, because I did want it pretty solid by the time it was summer and that we needed it. And he's learned it pretty quickly too. I think this is his 5th session, so that's really, really good. Do his chest there, that looks great. I think he's probably more comfortable with his chest being sprayed than his hind legs. And again, for him specifically, he is more sensitive on his hind legs. For each horse, it's going to be a little bit different. So just knowing that about your horse is important.